The opinions expressed on the show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individuals. To determine which investments or solutions may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, financial advisor, or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through Kestra Investment Services, LLC, also known as Kestra IS, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Kestra Advisory Services, LLC, also known as Kestra AS, an affiliate of Kestra IS. Pleasant Wealth, LLC is not affiliated with Kestra IS or Kestra AS. Neither Kestra IS or Kestra AS provides legal or tax advice. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to our community with Whitney Prather. Learn about what's happening in Stark and Tuscarawas counties and the surrounding areas. We're going to highlight interesting people, businesses, organizations, churches, events, and even more. Stay tuned. Today, I'm speaking with Liz Hand of Pleasant Wealth. Liz has worked as a financial planner and wealth manager with Pleasant Wealth since 2010. With a knack for retirement income design and women's finances, Liz shares complex financial ideas in practical terms. She has a Bachelor of Science in Financial Management from Mount Vernon Nazarene University, a Master of Science in Health and Human Development focusing in family financial planning, and the Certified Financial Planner designation. Involved in the community in various capacities, Liz serves as a board member for Lighthouse Ministries, who works alongside Canton Southeast families and Broken Restoration, who connects recently widowed or divorced women. She is also an active member of Women's Impact in First Mennonite Church in Canton. Liz and her husband Nate enjoy raising their sons Mason and Brennan. A weekend with free time finds them enjoying downtown Canton eats and events, camping, and dreaming of getting to more national parks. Hey everyone, I'm so excited to be speaking with Liz Hand from Pleasant Wealth again. We caught up with her last month where she shared so many amazing tips and she was gracious enough to come back. So Liz, we are gearing up for the new year. Many people will set New Year's resolutions. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think I've been burned by New Year's resolutions so many times that I have jumped off the New Year's resolution train. And I approach the new year still with some like goal setting type of ideas, but not in the same manner that it has been in the past. I've been trying to find ways to match my personality with it, and I found more success.
I love your approach to financial well-being. Like you're all about matching your goals, your personality to a practice. And I think that that is so freeing. I think every time last time when we had this conversation, I remembered that about you. And I just kind of felt like I was taking a deep breath, like, no judgment here. So how do you propose that someone approaches the new year or approaches a financial goal?
So the first thing that I want people, or that I suggest that people do, is to take a little assessment of what has been and where they feel the most discomfort in their life, whether that is financially motivated or even not segmenting that piece out, just in life. Where am I feeling most uncomfortable? And oftentimes that discomfort can have some sort of money tie, because money affects so many areas of our life. So once we have determined what that piece is, I like to find a centering word that reminds me of that idea. So it's the word of the year idea. I don't know if you've heard of that before. Have you?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So instead of a New Year's resolution, you pick a word that centers what your intentions for the following year. And instead of having so this is very not the type A personality thing to do. So instead of saying, I want to have $10,000 in my emergency savings by December 31st, 2021, instead I maybe cling to the word freedom or security, or something that reminds me of that piece. And then all the decisions that I'm making throughout the year are going to lean into that idea. What creates the most freedom for me? So it's just a little bit different of a way to approach the way we enter a new year. And I found for myself that without having those I don't know, what am I trying to say? Those like benchmark things, step 1 equals step 2 equals step 3. I am able to give myself a little grace, recognizing that every year changes like so drastically from the next, even outside of this pandemic year. Each year starts at one point and then to lean towards an intention that ultimately gets to your goal without the expectation of yourself going line by line. Bullet point 1 equals bullet point 2 equals bullet point 3 equals this $10,000 that I want in my bank.
Nice. So how would you suggest implementing that so that it becomes doable? Like I'm thinking about what you just shared, which is awesome. I'm thinking about how do I make this word last longer than just 3 weeks or a month? Like, are there check-ins that should happen?
What I like about it is that if it is truly something that I'm feeling that I need to lean into, I already have that desire deep within myself. It's different from saying I'm going to drink water 3 times a day, or that's not what people say, but a lot more water, and they quantify it.
Yeah.
And then the day that they miss it, it's like, shoot, I missed that goal. Now it's all wrecked. Oh, I don't have the motivation. You can always come back to that word. Even if it's been a month and you haven't thought about it, you can always revisit it because it's something deep within you.
Love it. Okay. I think, well, I mean, what else do we need?
Well,
I think approaching a financial goal with a word in mind can definitely bring, I think, peace and that motivational piece. Now I kind of want to transition a little bit. We can definitely come back to this, but I want to transition to some just questions that I think people might have about finances going into the new year and even now. So, we talked about how we should approach goal setting. I think that is a huge, you shared a huge nugget with us on that. But if someone has specific questions about, what are the financial basics, what would you encourage people to know, every person to know about, just the basics of finances going into a new year? It's the perfect time to kind of reset our knowledge. What are the financial basics?
So there's a couple of different areas that you can springboard from. The first is simply having that emergency fund available. So it's extra money just sitting in your bank account that is equivalent to 3 to 6 months of living expenses. So if you think of being furloughed or permanently laid off, it's money sitting in your bank account ready to step in place of a lost paycheck. That's step number 1. Paying off debt is very crucial, and just getting on some sort of plan to pay it off in a mindful way. I know a lot of times what I see is people kind of shotgun approach it. I'm just going to put a little extra here, a little extra there towards the debt and hope that it goes down. And that actually is not the most strategic way. But getting on some sort of plan to pay down your debt is good. Another basic is just thinking about homes. People are doing a lot of moving right now, or at least there's not many homes on the market because people are doing a lot of buying and selling and they get snatched up right away. Being mindful that your housing costs don't take up more than 1/3 of your paycheck is something to consider. And so if there's someone who is outside of that, they could get to a point of really cash strapping themselves. So that would be something I would be looking at going into the new year. Are my mortgage or tax expenses, the ongoing house upkeep expenses, do they take up more than 1/3 of my paycheck? And if yes, do the numbers work? And if no, is it worth considering a different plan with housing?
Yeah. Now you mentioned something about, making sure that your housing is just 1/3 of your income. What if that is off balance? How would you suggest someone work kind of through that? Because there's a lot of people living just above their means, or perhaps, something happened this year that has changed that formula for them, or it's changed the equation for them. So how does a person walk out of that? I mean, obviously they could make more money.
Yes, that is one option. There's lots of options available. And I just need to pause for a second. I misspoke on that. A third of your income is mortgage, taxes, that kind of expense, not like ongoing upkeep items of your home.
Okay.
But yeah, there's so many options available because you can increase the amount of income that you have. You can possibly sell your house, capitalize on this time where housing prices are high, and rent for a couple of years. There's some people who really don't like that idea, but that can create financial freedom. And for some people, financial freedom is more important than the ownership piece of the house at this exact time. It might be something that they can revisit later. Downsizing.
Yeah. So I think you kind of shed some light on a big concept of a house ownership and how that fits into the American dream. And people think that like that's the big thing of like, I need to own a house. But if you need to pause and reconstruct your ideas to get ahead financially so that maybe you could realize that goal in the future, that's fine, right?
Yeah. Interestingly enough, there was a fellow CFP, certified financial planner, that put out an article recently talking about how they didn't believe that homeownership is really a good financial option for a lot of people, and that maybe renting is more financially beneficial for them long term. And it caused a bunch of upheaval amongst my professional circles. But what I liked about that is that, just like what you were saying, there is this standard American dream that we are told we are supposed to live into. And just like the standard American diet, it doesn't fit everybody's body. And this standard American dream doesn't necessarily fit your financial life. And so home ownership does not have to be this mile marker or sign of success. I think the millennial generation specifically has started to turn that on its head by deciding to rent long term. And I'm not saying idea to introduce into the conversation.
So I want to know, like, what is a trust fund? And I know that you can't always give specific advice. So I'm just curious, like if someone is curious, I'm curious if someone is curious. I'm wondering if someone is curious about trust fund and setting up one, what are some of the steps that they need to take or to consider?
Yeah, trust funds are used for a bunch of different financial goals or long-term life goals. They are set up by attorneys. And so there's my disclaimer. I am not an attorney. And any type of legal counsel that you would need, or if you're actually considering getting a trust, talk to an attorney. But this should just give you some basic information to kind of leapfrog from. So trusts are used for all different purposes to fund a desire that somebody has at their passing, or even sometimes during life. And some of the goals people are looking to achieve by setting up a trust fund is avoiding probate. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, probate, but probate is when you pass away and you don't have somebody who is named as the beneficiary. It all of your personal stuff goes through court records and becomes public. And there's also some taxes or fees, more like fees, that get taken from probate. So oftentimes people want to avoid probate so that their personal information is private and that they can avoid some of those legal fees because it passes through probate. Not to mention, if somebody passes and their stuff goes through probate, it can lengthen the time to where the beneficiaries are able to actually get the money, the house, the stuff. So it's just kind of a hassle. So oftentimes people want to plan ahead and avoid that. And that's one main way that I've seen trusts used. People typically who are looking at a trust have a good amount of money saved up that they would be concerned about it going through probate and having those expenses. Some other reasons I've seen are if they have children who are under the age of 18 and they want to just make sure their kids are provided for, even though their children are not able to legally sign on anything. Some people use it for Medicaid planning. That's pretty tricky, or like if someone's going into a nursing home, that gets really complicated and you want to make sure you have a specialist there. Yeah, there's so many reasons people use them.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a part of planning for the future.
Yeah. It's basically creating another entity that holds the money. So it's not a person, it's not a business, it's the trust, but it is its own legal entity. And then the documents that go along with the trust help dictate what happens with the money inside of it.
Okay, good. All right. So another part of planning for retirement is a 401k.
Mm-hmm.
Usually employers you can set up a 401k through an employer, but if you're not employed by someone, or if you have a non-traditional gig, the gig economy is really, really popular right now because of what's happening. How could a person set up a 401k? Would they need to talk to an attorney?
No, 401ks are a little bit different. You can set those up with financial planners like myself. If we're talking about someone who is self-employed, like what you're talking about, the gig economy, you always have an individual retirement account that you can contribute to. And there's some different variations of that depending on what you want to happen with your taxes. And the 401k is regulated by the Department of Labor. So you just have to get the legal documents in order, which a financial advisor can help you organize all of that. And then, there's a lot of decisions in the process of setting that up. But as a self-employed person, if you don't have any employees that you're having to worry about, you do have some additional options that are outside of a 401k.
Nice. I'm a part of your Facebook community, and I think that is such a great group to be a part of. You do a series in your community called Death to Be Nice, and I kind of paused on that. I scrolled past and I'm like, what does that mean? Death to be nice. So please share what that idea is pertaining to.
Yeah, it's death to must be nice. And this was a Thanksgiving article that I wrote, a series of statements. And you've probably had someone that you saw kind of their life unfolding, and then there was a time where you're like, well, must be nice that they can do that, but I can't because I'm over here doing X, Y, or Z.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So that process of saying must be nice to someone hinders them and it hinders yourself. And so in that conversation that I had on the Pleasant Financial Conversations group was talking about how making that statement not only limits the person who was just really jazzed about whatever life decision they had made, you've put them down and they are not able to live into their calling or maybe the direction that they feel called to go into. But it also puts you in this box of just feeling like you're stuck in the place that you're at. And that's never the case. There are always options available. So it was a challenge during Thanksgiving of this idea of being thankful in a different light, of just allowing everybody to make the financial decisions that they decide to without judgment on their decision-making process, because they are ultimately, hopefully, living into the calling that they have, that they see for themselves, and pressing forward into that. And it looks different than your situation, and that's okay.
Yeah. What kind of, how did this all come about? Like, had you encountered someone say that to you?
Oh, I've definitely,
Or,
yes.
yeah.
Have you ever had someone say it to you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's
And
go ahead.
And I've also said it myself. I've also probably looked at someone on Instagram who was on vacation. and even my sister lives in California, and she just moved into a really great studio apartment there, and she went outside and was like showing me everything that was going on, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it must be nice to live there because it was so sunny.
I always feel like if someone says it to me, they just don't get a full picture of who I am and where I'm going. And it does dampen my spirit. You know, if my husband and I made a specific financial decision and we moved into it, we were taking a risk, and it either pans out or it doesn't. And so I want all the support if I am being vulnerable enough to share what it is that we're doing.
Yeah. And I think as a business owner too, myself, going into it, a lot of people have maybe not have said that phrase to me, but have made a phrase that's similar to it, almost thinking, something false. And it's kind of like what you just shared, like you don't get the full picture. This is really, really risky.
Yes. And when people say must be nice, they are glossing over all of those steps that you felt along the way in creating your business, all of those points in time where you had the question mark of, is this going to work? Or you took a misstep and had to go back and correct all of that. Like, that was a lot of pain and effort and growth that you experienced as a person. And so for them to snapshot just specific times in your life and say, well, it must be nice for you, just kind of throws all of that work and effort and joy that you've put into the process in creating something. And I feel like no matter what we do in life, wherever we're going, whatever we're doing with our family or personal time, we are at our closest with our Maker, with God, when we are at this point of creating. And so especially when you think of people who are building businesses from nothing, oh man, the pain and the beauty of the struggle of building something is like them in most tune with their Maker in that process. And for someone to just cast out like a must be nice, I feel like it also doesn't give God the glory that that he deserves in that process of building.
Wow. I really have never, ever heard it put that way, but that does something to my heart. And just, man, I think it puts my experience into perspective as well, of just like trying to build, my business and thinking through the systems and the processes and praying and asking God to just like give me wisdom and all of that. And it's creation, it's being reliant on him. And so thank you for putting that experience into words.
Sure. Yeah. I think it's really important.
Yeah. So I have one more question, and it is, what are your favorite tools for managing personal finance or business?
So in personal finance, if you're looking for a free tool, there's two that I've bumped into that I've thought do a pretty good job. One is mint.com. And that is one way where you can pull in all of your data feeds and see what your spending looks like. You can set parameters, budgets, things like that. And it'll text you when you bump into those. The other is Personal Capital. The hesitancy I have with both of those is that nothing is free. So what is it that you're actually exchanging in that process? It's all of your financial data and all of your spending decisions in one place. So that's pretty potent information to pass on. So take that with a grain of salt, or take that into consideration, really, when you're considering using those. But any type of data aggregator, if you can find, so I have that available when folks work with me, and the one that I use is called eMoney. It's very private, secure. It's and your data is not sold. So, but it gives you the financial dashboard that you need to be able to make clear decisions for the future, which I love. And mine ties in financial planning with it, which I extra love. But so yeah, that would be on the personal finance side. On the business side, depends on what you're talking about. So say more about what you were intending with that question.
Yeah. So just tools for managing business finances. I know QuickBooks is good. I know, just any software or tools that I feel like that you use to make running and managing financial business a little bit easier.
Okay. I'm going to take it a little different spin, but I think this will, especially talking about the gig economy that we are in. I guess one thing that I see very often with small businesses or side businesses is that there is no separation from business account to personal account. And so it's just like one slush fund of this is kind of my business stuff, this is kind of my personal stuff. And without that separation, you don't get clarity on your numbers for your business. You also don't get clarity on your numbers for your personal life. So you might be really shortchanging your personal life, or you might be way overspending in your business. You have no idea without separating that out. So that is often something I see, especially with the solopreneurs, someone who started up a business by themselves. I encourage them to set up a business account specifically, and then to pay themselves from that account. Maybe that's a monthly distribution sent to your personal bank account. But just getting a little bit of separation from personal and business provides more clarity that you need for decision-making in both personal and business decisions.
Yeah, I think that's a really great note to rest on it. I know a lot of people personally who have started out on a business venture, and they have just, combined it, not taking the time to separate it. And I think that is so vital. Well, Liz, this has been such a pleasure to connect with you. I've really enjoyed these conversations where you just kind of give us the lowdown on what you're thinking and, advice, the New Year advice. The word I think is so crucial for all of us. Start out with a word that kind of defines what our experience or what our intention should be is amazing. Before we leave and put a pin in this conversation, how can people engage with you?
If you want to get in contact with me, you're welcome to go to my website, pleasantwealth.com. If you are a woman and you want a safe place where you can ask questions about personal finance, check out Pleasant Financial Conversations on Facebook. It's an online community for women. And I always have tips, tricks, and how-tos on YouTube at Pleasant Financial Conversations.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Liz. Have a great one.
You too, Whitney. Take care.
Thank you to our guest today, and thank you for tuning in. Cheers. Until next time.